Good evening, everyone. I'm going to call the July meeting of the Washington County Quorum Court to order. This evening, Justice Lyons has agreed to do us the honor of prayer and pledge. Justice Lyons.
Heavenly Father, we humbly come before you, asking for your divine intervention to send your agents to protect the children from evil and free them from slavery, returning their freedom. As you have told us via Matthew, if anyone causes one of these little ones, those who believe in me, to stumble, it would be better for them to have a large millstone hung around their neck and to be drowned in the depth of the sea. God, your children are not for sale. Grant us the sight and wisdom to see the truth, to give you our burdens, and trust that you will fight those battles for us. Lord, provide us with the wisdom and your guidance as we consider the items before us tonight. In Jesus Christ we pray. Amen.
Amen. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Justice Lyons. Well, with that, we'll move to the adoption of the agenda. Does anyone have any amendments to the agenda? If not, I'll accept a motion to adopt the agenda. Justice Lyons.
Adopt the agenda.
I have a motion to adopt the agenda by Justice Lyons, a second by Justice Dean. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? The agenda has been adopted. Are there any preliminary motions this evening before we start the meeting? Justice Dean?
Yes, Judge, thank you. I move that all ordinances and resolutions be read by title only.
I have a motion to read ordinances and resolutions by title only by Justice Dean, second by Justice Lyons. All those in favor? Aye. Those opposed? Ordinances and resolutions will be read by title only. Up next is a public comment period. We have a 15-minute public comment period with a limit of 3 minutes per individual. Are there any public comments this evening? With that, we'll move forward. The minutes are in your agenda packet. Are there any corrections to the agenda packet? If there's no corrections, we'll consider them approved. Justice Coger?
Yes, thank you, Judge. I have a couple of corrections. First of all, on line 24 of the minutes, my motion was to extend time to allow anyone in line to speak for 3 minutes, and not just to extend it for 12 minutes. And also on line 25, it says that my motion passed with a voice vote, but it did not pass. It did not pass at all. So I would like to amend line number 24 to read that I made the motion to extend the time for anyone standing in line to speak for 3 minutes. And then it should be corrected also that my motion did not pass because I did not have enough votes to pass.
We will note those, and then do I have a motion to pass it with the amendments? That's the way we'll
pass it
with the amendments of Justice Coger. So I have a motion to pass by Justice Dean. I believe I heard second by Justice Lyons, if that's correct. Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay.
Judge, I have a question. In the future, if there's something like that, should I notify the court beforehand, or should I make the motion in public like that, or the amendment in public?
I think if you alerted the court coordinator beforehand, we would get them fixed.
Okay, I'll do that. Thank you.
Yep. Okay. The minutes have been approved. County Judge's Report. First of all, let me start by saying we want to thank the Washington County Extension Homemakers Clubs for the snacks before the meeting. What incredible hospitality the Extension Office continues to bring to us, and I appreciate them doing that for us, and so I always extend them the thank you for helping us out. The disposal report's in your packet. There were no disposals for the month of June. A few items I'd like to talk about this evening. The first one is the PACT Act. The PACT Act was passed by Congress last year, and what it did was it extended VA benefits and health care coverage for veterans who were exposed to Agent Orange, burn pits, other toxic substances like that within their service. So there's a deadline coming up of August the 9th. There is no deadline to apply for those benefits, But if you file a claim or an intent to file a claim by August the 9th, and then that claim is subsequently approved, you will get your benefits backdated to August 10th of 2022. And so I want to continue to put that message out there to our wonderful veterans community around the county and let them know if you have questions or would like help, more information on that, please reach out to our Veterans Service Office. We've got representatives there who are just dying to help you guys out, roll through that process and answer any questions you have. So please reach out to our Veteran Service Office and get that on your radar. I want to update you guys a little bit. The Crisis Stabilization Unit has seen some real trials and tribulations lately with their funding. I want to remind the public that the Crisis Stabilization Unit from its inception was a partnership between the state and the county. And the county's obligation was to provide for an adequate facility, and the state's obligation was to provide us with reimbursements for the service provider within that facility that offers the medical treatment and care. Our service provider is UAMS. I was taken aback a little bit, still being relatively new as your county judge, that I was delivered a contract on June 29th that needed to be signed that same day. And what that contract did for us was we are roughly reimbursed approximately $90,000 per month by the state for the service provider. And what that did was that contract demanded that they would pay the $90,000 until the end of September, and then after that, the reimbursement would have dropped to approximately $60,000 a month. And so it's been I basically signed that contract with a lot of discomfort, trying to keep those doors open and keep that facility as an asset for this whole region. The host counties, there's 4 of us: Washington County, Craighead County, Sebastian County, and Pulaski County. The judges and sheriffs and elected representatives in those areas are trying to work with the governor's office to secure the rest of that funding. There is some talk that they can make up that funding gap by billing insurance and Medicare, Medicaid, things like that, and they want to try to work on that to fulfill that funding gap. I just want everybody to know that we see this as an asset. We're working very hard to try to keep this in Washington County, but this is only viable if the state lives up to their obligations. And so for whatever that's worth to the public and the members of this court, the governor's office and the Arkansas Department of Human Services needs to hear from us and let them know how important this is for us and that this is an asset that we want to keep. But essentially we're on borrowed time here for 90 days while we try to work to fulfill that funding gap. I want to thank all the justices who were able to make our road tour last month. It was very beneficial, I think, from my standpoint. I hope it was beneficial from yours and very educational. I also want to say it's always very beneficial for the men and women of our road department to see their elected officials taking interest in their jobs and what they're doing. It was incredible for us to share some of our opportunities and some of our challenges and things like that. If you have any feedback of that or suggestions of how to make that better, please let me know. Reach out, email me, because at least right now I'm thinking about that's a good process to do, at least biannually, and especially focused for when we have newly elected JPs come onto the court. I think that's a great way to introduce them to what our county's doing. I also want to extend another great thank you to the Sheriff's Department for providing lunch for us, and a great stop there. I know it was good for them to get to see you guys and interact with you a little bit, and I also want to provide a thank you to Ozark Regional Transit for providing the bus that day. That was very much appreciated. Update on our Emergency Operations Center project. In the last few weeks, we've been doing a lot of information gathering. We're in what our architects and designers call the programming stage, which is where they've really been working with our county staff to understand and learn about what their jobs and responsibilities are so they can get everything incorporated into that facility that we think we might need. We were able to go down and tour the Arkansas Department of Emergency Management's State Emergency Operations Center in Camp Robinson down in North Little Rock. That was very beneficial for us to see that facility. We were with our architects and our emergency management teammates, and so that gave us insight on and ideas about what we liked and what we didn't like and what we can come home and incorporate. I also want to say that Ozarks Electric Cooperative has an emergency communication center that they use during all manner of weather events, and that they hosted us there and let us tour that facility also, which gave us even more insight. All that to say, Director Luther is very knowledgeable about what his job responsibilities are and has been working with them very, very thoroughly to make sure that we get a facility that is both efficient but also is very usable by Washington County. I want to also say that we received 3 very strong responses for construction managers in response to our RFQ that we issued. That decision on who we will award that contract to is pretty imminent. We want to get the construction manager involved early. That's been suggested by everyone in the construction field, including our architects, so that they can start helping us and collaborate with our architects to make sure that from the construction standpoint and even the cost standpoint, we're doing all that we can to be as efficient as we can with dollars, but also give us a facility that will be very valuable to us as the county. But I also want to continue to stress to each and every one of you that this will be an asset to the region. This will be something that if something were happen, all of our first responder community is very much about mutual aid, and so this will be something that we can offer to a lot of different organizations around here, not just in this county, but in the region. I just want to, I can't learn enough about the EOC. Every day's more information, but, your mind can immediately jump to the major events that facility might be used for. But we had a little bit of a kind of a reminder training exercise last night. Our sheriff's department went down unexpectedly without power for a very short amount of time, but it affected the dispatch center. And so it was a very good highlight for us of this emergency operations center will have dispatch consoles into it. And so, something even as minor as that event is minor, but the effects are great for our county. A facility like this will be ready. And so if something like that were to happen, the dispatchers could literally go down the street and plug into a facility that should be a redundant facility that should be backed up. So, it's just going to be an amazing thing for our county and our region to have that. I want to take just a short moment to give some words of encouragement, and it'd be important for you guys to reach out. Comptroller Story is under a very stressful time here at work, but he's also had some family issues, and so the man is just incredibly dedicated to his work here at the county, and I just want you to reach out to him and give him a word of encouragement if you don't mind. Also, Director Ada is here tonight, but he lost his father, and so he's actually on a bereavement day today, but is dedicated enough to be here. And Director Ada, I told him that we would all understand if he couldn't make it this evening, but I want to thank you, Director Ada, for all you do, and condolences on behalf of the county and this whole board for this whole body for your loss. Finally, I have one appointment to make this evening. Justice Taylor was on the county law library, the Washington County Law Library Board, and after accepting this new role, found it appropriate to step down from that role. And so we have an open appointment for Washington County. I'm excited, and I'd like to appoint our very own Catherine Baker to that position, and she's expressed great interest in that. She's already come to the county and made some positive impacts, and so I think she'd be appropriate for that. So with that, I have a motion to approve Catherine Baker to the Washington County Law Library by Justice Pond, second by Justice Lemming. All those in favor? Aye. Those opposed? Congratulations, Counselor Baker. Another resume builder. With that, I will move into our unfinished business. And the first item up is item number 8. Counselor, will you read that by title only?
This is an ordinance amending Ordinance 2018-50 to update the vacation policy in the Washington County Employee Handbook.
Thank you. Justice Ecke?
Thank you, Judge. This ordinance, the purpose of this policy is to establish a uniform guideline for the accrual, use, and payout of vacation leave for regular, full-time, and part-time employees. The rate of vacation accrual shall be a stair-stepped in order to reward longevity. I'm glad to see that Director Burchett put in this language, and also our county attorney, the grandfathering of certain parts, and there will be a compliance period where employees who are currently active upon this policy being passed will have a full year from the date of passage to come into compliance with accrual amounts. The full year is independent of your calendar year as defined in this policy. And I think that provision right there made the question that we had for a few employees. That's going to take care of them. So I make a motion to pass 8.1.
I have a motion to pass item number 8.1 by Justice Ecke, a second by Justice Lyons. Is there any further discussion on this item? Sorry, Justice Lyons?
Thank you, Judge. When this came up last time, there was a whole lot of discussion, and I didn't understand why, so I went back and reviewed it. I still don't understand why. Based on the review that I had, the changes that are made in this policy benefits the staff of Washington County, and I think that's great. The process that the county uses to give input to this is over and above anything I've experienced or seen in my entire career working for a number of different companies in the industry, including the military. Just you don't get that. Basically, in corporate America as well as in the military, it's here's the change, like it or not. And you guys have went an extra mile and allowed input. There were changes based on input. I think the new policy is a benefit for the staff. It benefits the staff. There's a lot of positives for them in there, and I'd urge everybody to vote to pass this.
Thank you, Justice Lyons. Justice Lemming?
There is to me, it still picks on the older employees, and it basically tells the employees when they can take their vacation and when they can't. And when I worked for the state, we could carry over about all we wanted to carry over. And a lot of employees good employees that don't take all their time off, they want to work. They want to come to work. They want to have that time. They may want to retire early and take it with them, get paid for it. And so it's not fair to tell the employees when they have to take their vacation. It's not fair to do that. So I won't vote for it because I just don't think it's fair to the older folks that's been here for a long time. Thank you.
Further discussion? Any public comments on item number 8.1? With that, we'll take up the question. I have a motion to pass item number 8.1 I have a motion to pass item 8.1 by Justice Ecke, second by Justice Lyons. Ms. Sabrina, will you please call roll?
Chandra Washington. Beth Koger. Robert Dennis. Evelyn Rios Stafford. Willie Lemming. Butch Pond. Coleman Taylor. David Wilson. Sean Simons. Kyle Lyons. Lisa Ecke. Charles Dean. Chandra, could you push your button?
Item number 8 passes. Item number 9. Counselor, will you read that by title only?
An ordinance repealing ordinances 2009-33, 2009-43, and 2009-67 to allow appeals of the decisions of the planning board to be filed in circuit court.
Justice Lyons.
I'd like to make a motion, we suspend the rules and move this to the third reading. No, today was second.
Yeah, this is on second reading. I failed to mention that.
Don't confuse me.
I have a motion to pass item number, I have a motion to suspend the rules and move item 9 to the third and final reading. Motion by Justice Lyons. Do I have a second? Second by Justice Dean. Ms. Sabrina, will you please call a roll on that, please?
Chandra Washington. Beth Koger. Robert Dennis. Evelyn Rios Stafford. Willie Lemming. Butch Pond. Coleman Taylor. David Wilson. Sean Simons. Kyle Lyons. Lisa Ecke. Charles Dean.
That motion fails. That'll move to the third reading next month. Item number 10. Council, will you read that by title only?
An ordinance amending the ARPA fund budget for 2023.
That's on its second reading. Without a further motion, we'll move on. Justice Dennis, you have your mic queued. Is it? Okay, just making sure you did. Okay. Okay. Justice Lyons?
Now I'll make a motion to suspend the rules and move to the third reading.
I have a motion by Justice Lyons to suspend the rules and move item number 10 to the third and final reading. Do I have a second? Second. I have a second by Justice Dean. Ms. Sabrina, will you please call the roll on this?
Chandra Washington. No. Beth Koger. No. Robert Dennis. No. Evelyn Rios Stafford. No. Willie Lemming. No. Butch Pond. No. Coleman Taylor. Yes. David Wilson. Yes. Sean Simons. Lisa Ecke. Whoops. Kyle Lyons. Yes, Charles Dean.
Yes.
That motion fails. Item number 10 will move to the third and final reading next month. Yes.
Hear what was said over there by JP number 6. If it was relevant, I'd like to hear what she had to say.
I didn't hear it either. Item number 11 is the consent agenda. Is there any discussion on the consent agenda? Do I have a motion for the consent agenda? Oh, I'm sorry. I'm all confused this evening. Let the counselor read these by title only. Counselor, will you please read these items by title only?
Item 1 of the consent agenda is an ordinance recognizing additional revenue in the amount of $75,000 in the Rural Community Grant Fund for 2023. Item 2 is an ordinance anticipating and appropriating additional grant funds and repealing ordinance 2023-80. Item 3 is an ordinance anticipating additional revenue of $399,996 in the Drug Court Grant Fund. Item 4 is an ordinance amending the ambulance fund budget for 2023. Item 5 is an ordinance recognizing and appropriating additional revenue of $9,138 in the Rural Community Grant Fund for 2023. Item 6 is an ordinance amending various budgets for 2023. Item 7 is an ordinance recognizing and appropriating additional revenue of $10,000 in the AOC Juvenile Court Grant Fund for 2023. Item 8 is an ordinance amending the prosecuting attorney's budget for 2023. Item 9 is an ordinance amending the assessor's budget for 2023. Item 10 is an ordinance amending the Circuit Court 8's budget for 2023.
All right, my apologies for jumping the gun. Discussion on this item, Justice Simons?
I don't have much discussion, Chair. Just wanted to make a motion that we approve this consent agenda.
I have a motion to approve the consent agenda by Justice Simons, a second by Justice Lyons. Is there any further discussion? Are there any public comments on the consent agenda? Ms. Sabrina, please call a roll. This will be on the passage of the consent agenda. I had a motion to pass by Justice Simons, second by Justice Lyons.
Chandra Washington. Yes. Beth Koger. Yes. Robert Dennis. Yes. Evelyn Rios Stafford. Yes. Willie Lemming. Yes. Butch Pond. Yes. Coleman Taylor. Yes. David Wilson. Yes. Sean Simons. Kyle Lyons. Lisa Ecke. Yes. Charles Dean.
The consent agenda passes. Item number 12, council, will you read that by title only?
An ordinance ratifying a conditional use permit recommended for approval by the planning board for the Langham Shop addition.
Justice Taylor, would you like to introduce this ordinance?
Thanks, Judge. This is a 50 by 100 square foot shop building that's being proposed over in Tawnytown. Not much feedback, seems fairly benign, and I would move for, or hope for a good vote on it, and that we consider all the details we're about to hear, and yeah.
This is on its first reading. Would you like to suspend the rules?
Yes, move to suspend the rules and pass it on its third reading.
I have a motion to suspend the rules and move it to the second reading by Justice Taylor, second by, I believe I heard Justice Lyons. Is that correct, sir? Justice Lyons? All those in favor? Those opposed? Council, that motion passes. Council, will you read that ordinance for the second time? God.
An ordinance ratifying a conditional use permit recommended for approval by the planning board.
Justice Taylor?
Move that we suspend the rules and move to the third reading.
I have a motion to suspend the rules and move to a third and final reading by Justice Taylor, a second by Justice Lyons. All those in favor? Those opposed? Motion passes. Council, will you read that ordinance by title only for a third and final time?
An ordinance ratifying a conditional use permit recommended for approval by the planning board for the Langham Shop addition.
Justice Taylor?
Move that we pass this.
I have a motion to pass item number 12 by Justice Taylor, a second by Justice Lyons. Is there any further discussion on the item? Justice Dennis?
Thank you, Judge. Just a little bit of explanation for me, if someone could. Why do we do 3 times on these type CUPs? Is it, I mean, you know, it's law. I'm wanting to know, is it law, or can we change that? I'd like to see us do all CUPs. But I know that's a separate issue, but I thought it was time to bring it up on while we're talking about a CUP.
Well, state law requires all ordinances to be read 3 times, unless there are 2 exceptions to that. Those are appropriation ordinances, which can pass without separate readings if they have 10 votes, or an emergency ordinance. By virtue of the fact that it's emergency, you only get 1 bite at the apple, and it has to have 10 votes. But everything else is required to have 3 separate readings. So that's why.
So we don't have the right to change that?
No.
Okay, thank you.
Further discussion? Any public comments on item number 12? Seeing none, we have a motion to pass item number 12 by Justice Taylor, a second by Justice Lyons. Ms. Sabrina, will you please call the roll?
Chandra Washington. Yes. Beth Koger. Robert Dennis. Yes. Evelyn Rios Stafford. Yes. Willie Lemming. Butch Pond. Yes. Coleman Taylor. Yes. David Wilson. Yes. Sean Simons. Kyle Lyons. Lisa Ecke. Charles Dean.
Item number 12 passes. Item number 13, Council, will you read that by title only?
An ordinance ratifying a conditional use permit recommended for approval by the planning board for Rapology.
Give me just a second. We need to make sure this vote closes before I can operate the machine. There you go. Sorry about that. Justice Pond, would you like to introduce this ordinance?
Yes, this is I still don't know why why these folks came to the planning office to request or what they did, because that's been a commercial property there ever since I can remember. There are two small, commercial type buildings there that have had various kinds of businesses in them, and I don't know whether anyone ever lived in one of them or not. They don't look like they would be an adequate living structure. But I've not received any complaints about them. I mean, I should say that the folks that bought that business have been operating in there for several years now. Should commend them for coming forward and trying to get all their I's dotted and their T's crossed and all that kind of stuff. It just seemed like something they wanted to do. And so I'm inclined we need to make a motion to put this on the second reading.
I have a motion to suspend the rules and move to a second reading by Justice Pond, second by Justice Lyons. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? That motion passes. Justice Pond?
You want to read it before
Oh,
I
I'm
make
sorry.
a motion to?
An ordinance ratifying a conditional use permit recommended for approval by the Planning Board for Rapology.
Move to suspend the rules and put this on the third reading.
Motion to suspend the rules and move to a third and final reading by Justice Pond, second by Justice Lyons. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Council, will you read that by title only?
An ordinance ratifying a conditional use permit recommended for approval by the Planning Board for Rapology.
Justice Pond?
Move to pass 13.1.
I have a motion to pass item number 13 by Justice Pond, a second by Justice Lyons. Further discussion? Oh, I'm sorry. Justice Coger?
Thank you, Judge. I'd just like to say that no one objected to this when it came before the Planning Commission earlier. There were no neighbors or anything that objected, so I would just point that out there.
Justice Rios Stafford?
Thank you, Judge. I usually like to try to go out and, see the locations, when we have these CUPs, but with these three that we're hearing right now, unfortunately, I wasn't able to because we had some family issues we were dealing with this weekend. But this place is in a really high-profile location. I've seen it a million times. It's been there for years. I've driven by it a jillion times, going out to the Ozarks or going out to Bull Shoals Lake and back. And I'm really surprised that it didn't have a CUP already, honestly, because it's been there for so long. And I guess to me that just sort of raises some questions about, I guess our whole, planning and zoning process and how many other businesses that have been there forever that don't actually have CUPs.
Justice Pond?
Forgive me for not mentioning it, but these buildings in this commercial area there has been in there far longer than we've had zoning in Washington County. These were probably constructed in the 60s, and there's been about every kind of commercial business in there that you can think of, and so, then you get into the argument. I would say they're grandfathered in. That'd be my judgment, but then we have people that don't believe there's such thing as a grandfather. But anyway, that's why there's never been a permit on that property, and maybe that's why the people who are in there now decided that they should come forward and do a permit, because they realize that we do have zoning in Washington County. I hope that kind of makes some of that clear, and I hope Mr. Sam is not in argument with me, and I want to tell you I'm sorry to hear about your dad.
Good evening, everyone. Thanks for the kind comments, Judge. I really appreciate it, and for the sentiments. everything being said true. It's been there like before the 2006 establishing of the ordinances and the zoning requirements. The CUP and the applicants is applying just to make sure like he can continue the operations of the of this business and to ensure the rights of the tenants to be able to purchase it so he can transfer like the ownership for it. So that's the reason, because once you transfer, like the code kicks in, and if they don't have it, so it's going to be a problem. So then they don't want to lose business. They don't want to keep it continuous. That's the whole reason. And it's in Fayetteville planning area. We did not hear like any negative feedback from the planning at the city. The only thing they mentioned, which is it's a condition there and it's attached, is just like the roads, using the roads like on the side rather than using the highway as an entrance. Yeah, that's all.
Any further discussion or questions on item number 13? With that, we'll open it up to public comments. Any public comments on item number 13? Seeing none, we'll take up the question. I have a motion to pass item number 13 by Justice Pond, a second by Justice Lyons. Ms. Sabrina, will you please call the roll?
Chandra Washington. Yes. Beth Koger. Yes. Robert Dennis. Yes. Evelyn Rios Stafford. Yes. Willie Lemming. Yes. Butch Pond. Yes. Coleman Taylor. Yes. David Wilson. Yes. Sean Simons. Kyle Lyons. Lisa Ecke. Yes. Charles Dean.
Item number 13 passes. Item number 14, council, will you read that by title only? This will be the first reading.
An ordinance ratifying a conditional use permit recommended for approval by the planning board for anytime hauling.
Justice Lemming, would you like to introduce this ordinance?
Yeah, I would. I would like to make a motion that we deny this conditional use permit. And the reasons why, I have 4 illegal salvage yards already in my district that I'm doing everything I can do to get shut down. I've got my state representative helping me, and we're getting letters sent to the ones that's on the state highways, and the ones that's in the county. Sam has had some issues, and he's not been able to come out, but he's going to next week. And our new attorney's I'm gonna visit with her, and we're gonna try our best to get the rest of these shut down. And this is just gonna be another salvage yard set up in my district. And Summers, Arkansas has got 2 beautiful churches. They've got a beautiful fire station, nice post office, and the folks that owns everything around downtown has remodeled. It's beautiful down there, and we don't need all this. And I would make a motion to deny it. Thank you.
Thank you, Justice Lemming. We'll still need to move through the 3 readings, so
to suspend the rules and take her to the second reading.
Motion to suspend the rules and move to a second reading by Justice Lemming, second by Justice Lyons. All those in favor? Aye. Those opposed? No. Item number 14 will move to the second reading. Counselor, will you please read that by title only?
An ordinance ratifying a conditional use permit recommended for approval by the planning board for anytime hauling.
Justice Lemming?
I'd like to make a motion to take it to the third and final reading.
I have a motion to suspend the rules and take it to a third and final reading by Justice Lemming, second by Justice Lyons. All those in favor? Aye. Those opposed? No. Motion passes. Council, will you read that for a third and final time?
An ordinance ratifying a conditional use permit recommended for approval by the planning board for anytime hauling.
Justice Lemming?
Will that be the final reading?
That is, sir.
Thank you. Move to pass?
Move to vote. Yeah,
move to vote.
Move to vote.
Sorry.
Move to deny.
I make a motion to deny the CUP.
Our counselor's suggestion here is we move to take the vote. If you are against the ordinance, you will vote no. If that's clear as mud, right? A yes will pass the ordinance. The way it's written, a yes vote will pass it into law. A no vote will deny it. So you're, okay. Justice Simons?
Thank you, Chair. So just for clarification, I've always based my judgments on CUPs on the articulation of our planning board. Other than the number of, what you said, scrap yards that are in your district, why did the planning board vote to approve this?
Director Ada, would you like to
Director
speak
Ada?
to this, please?
Thanks again. So we presented everything the same way we do, all the facts we received. We put like about 6 conditions on this project because we thought like strongly that it has to be controlled and contained. So the applicant, he just like purchased like 1 acre out of like a bigger like lot of it's 24 something, and he said in the application that he's going to be using 1/3 of his like 1 acre for this project. The conditions are, I know like they're too long, but like we made sure that like we contact, I personally like checked with the environmental affairs and we contacted Boston Solid Mountain, and their answer was like he needs to apply to get a permit and he needs to maintain that permit to be able like, to maintain his business. One of the things also they suggested that he's supposed to keep all the trash off the ground on trailers, otherwise it will have the definition of a transfer station and it has to be completely approved by like maybe ADQ, the state, and it's a long process. The applicant also agreed to have a minimum of 6-foot like picket fence, so he will like shelter everything so it wouldn't be available like obvious from the road, otherwise it's going to be a junkyard ordinance and like he's going to be maybe fined for it. And the other thing, being restricted to that like 1/3 of the property, not like expand. I'm not sure how this is going to be monitored a lot, if he's going to like just go beyond the 1/3 of what he said. I'm not sure. We might like need to visit and see from time to time. I checked also with the sheriff's office to make sure if they have any objection. We did not receive any feedback, so I believe like they haven't seen anything that like will put any extra conditions on them. And the trailers like they have to be concealed like from the road, so nobody will be able to see them. And also like any further like changes needs to come before the planning board. We had 3 absences during the planning board, the members, so we had like only 4 to vote. So basically we had a quorum. We gave the applicants, all of them, for the 3 projects, the option if you want to like move forward with them. Anyone no will like deny it. So most of them, they said like, okay, like let's go forward and see what happens. And based on what they've heard, the planning board just like felt like we need to pass that.
Justice Coger?
Thank you, Judge. I was at the Planning Commission hearing, and there were no objections, again, at that hearing. No neighbors objected or anything, but there was a lot of discussion, like you said, Sam, about the additional conditions and all. But were the applicants notified? Because I don't see them here tonight. Were they notified about this meeting?
I notified like the planner on the project to let them know about that. So
I kind of, okay, after the Planning Commission, they did not even understand that they had been approved. So,
yeah, they called us and we explained it to them and we told them like how it's going to work. It's actually the applicant, he had like lots of issues like grasping the facts that we told him like first time, so he used to relay everything to his like partner so she can call us and like get all the facts. I'm not sure like what's the deal, but I mean it took us like a while to explain stuff to him.
Right.
So,
that was why I was voting against moving it on tonight, because I don't think the applicant really even understood that process. And again, no one spoke against it.
Well, yeah, it's 1 acre, so we did not have like too many to inform. I guess it was like maybe 6 or 7 neighbors, and we haven't heard anything from anyone in opposition or like support.
Now, just to make sure I'm not getting this mixed up with another one that was heard that night, but isn't this the one where he said he would not leave the trash or
Yes.
whatever? on the premises?
Yeah, no, he said like he will leave it on the premise, but he's not gonna leave it for, they ask him for how long. And he, I guess like his partner, as you've heard, she said, we're not sure, it depends on the business, but like they're trying not to leave it on the ground, it has to be elevated like on a trailer. So,
Okay.
yeah, but yeah, basically we don't know exactly how long it's gonna be there.
Okay, thank you.
Justice Lyons?
Thank you, Judge. So, Director, what exactly is this business? I think I heard it referred as a salvage yard. I think it's what you said earlier. Maybe I'm
it's
wrong, but so what is it they're doing here?
It's basically, it's like an off-site trash hauling services to provide outdoor storage for like vehicles, boats, RVs, and campers. So all the metals like they can collect, they're gonna leave it there until like they will be able to transfer it somewhere else or sell it. So, and those things might come with trash in them, so. Okay. Yeah, and that's why we said like we don't want it to become a salvage yard or like it becomes something that like stationary for a while.
Justice Taylor?
Thank you, Judge. So, Director, just so we're clear, it's not a landfill, it's not a waste disposal site?
No, it's not.
And it's 1/3 of 1 acre?
Yes, sir.
Inside a 24, 25 acre parcel?
It's 1 acre. The whole thing is just like 1 acre. They split it off, so they own just only 1 acre, and they're gonna, according to them, they're gonna use like 1/3 of that.
Okay.
For the business.
Okay. And so is there currently any sort of like quota on that business in the county? Is there any sort of quota in that type of business in a region that we have here in Washington County?
No, I mean, once again, the ordinance says if it's not agricultural or like residential, it's a CUP, so they're applying to operate a business. But
Okay.
they got like their permission from the solid waste, Boston Solid Waste, and they're supposed to maintain it.
And you said there were 3 out of the 7 folks on the planning commission who were absent the night this
Yes,
passed?
yes, sir.
So it was unanimously passed by the 4
Yeah,
folks
the
who
4
were
of
there?
them, yes, sir.
And there was no objection?
No.
Okay.
And we haven't heard anything from the neighbors either.
All right, thank you.
Justice Dennis?
Thank you, Judge. Is there a fence all the way around it? covering it up?
They will have, they agreed to have a minimum of 6 feet like picket fence to cover like the entire area. Just
Okay.
to keep it contained and like visually and not an eyesore.
All right. Will these trucks and cars and boats and planes all be subject to being towed out as many of the ones in Lincoln do? This is, go ahead and answer that question. Are they gonna tow them?
They're supposed like to tow everything out, so like they're basically,
Are
they're
they
gonna
gonna
leave
sell
them and
them?
then
Are they
sell
gonna
them
sell
and
them
like move
and
them.
then tow them out?
Yes, yes.
Okay. Here's my point on this, and I'll share it with all of you. Where you can say, well, J.P. Dennis has gone crazy, but this is a big problem in that part of Washington County. And I get constantly hit up about what there are is salvage, correct me, Willie, if I'm wrong, but there's salvage yards that are out there that have auctions and sell them. Then they load them up on trucks, and then they take our back roads as shortcuts because they know it's shorter to get to 49 by cutting through Prairie Grove and going south, coming out at West Fork. They're overloaded, and they're speeding, and they're tearing up the roads, and I've been out there, I've been on it, I've been almost ran over by them, and it's a real issue, and I just can't go along with another one that's gonna do the same thing. I know that sounds kind of harsh, but at the same time, someone needs to put a kind of a stop to it. And then the other thing I'll say is I've seen these small 1 acre places like this get overrun with old cars and so environmentally, you got the gasoline that's stored in them, you've got the batteries that are leaking out of them, you've got the oil that's in the transmission fluid, and I can take you to Bentonville, two blocks from downtown. There's one that's sitting there that nobody knows because there's a fence all the way around it, and that thing it's just unbelievable. It's a junkyard. It's not a salvage yard. It's not a place to store something. It's just literally a junkyard, and I cannot believe that exists in Benton County, downtown Bentonville. but it does. And it's got a old fence around it and a bunch of trees growing up around it, and you don't see it, but trust me, it's there. And it's an eyesore, it's an environmental problem, and so I'm gonna vote no on it. I know, normally I'm all for someone starting a business, but I don't think we should give her blessing when we know something's gonna go bad. And so, that's where I'm coming from. Thank you.
Justice Simons?
Thank you, Chair. This just throws into relief the same conversations we've been having with the CUPs and the problems with our zoning. It is not our job to sit here and objectify what somebody wants to do with their property. Unfortunately, with the lack of our zoning in the county, which I believe is a big priority of this body and this administration to fix, but as it stands right now, there's some serious issues with enforcement of what happens here, right? There's not a lot of legislative teeth that enforces what happens here. And so my perspective has always been, if I cannot articulate to the contrary of what the planning board is approving, then am I going to be able to stand before a judge and defend my position on why I overturned the planning board? I feel like this body is designed to confirm what the planning board is supposed to do in their capacity, which is to see if these CUPs meet the requirements that are legally set out. And unfortunately, there are some bad businesses that get approved because they meet the requirements. And there's good businesses that get denied because they don't meet those requirements. And that's unfortunate. I don't think it's our job to sit here and objectify what somebody wants to do with their own property if they meet the requirements. And we count on Director Atta and his staff to execute those. So, man, do I want another trash hauling business? No. But if this person is paid for the property, if they're going to do the improvements, if they're going to meet by the conditions, then who am I to sit here and say that they can't do that? As long as they abide by the rules, and hopefully there's some kind of enforcement if they don't. So that's my thoughts behind it.
Justice Pond?
Yes, it's good that we put this on the third reading because we don't do any discussion on these things until we do. But what's lacking here is I feel like we have people on the court who have not been over in that area, in that neighborhood, or where that request has been made for, to actually see what's going on there. I would, because we do have this responsibility to approve this or deny it. I would move to table this till next month's meeting to give people a chance to look at what's there.
I have a motion to table this until next month's quorum court meeting by Justice Pond, second by Justice Dennis. Did I hear that, sir? Yes, sir. Justice Pond, Justice Dennis. Any further discussion on the item? On the motion to table. Justice Taylor?
Thank you, Judge. I just wanted to say real quick that Justice Dennis, to his point, I totally agree. I mean, folks are typically going to go to the lowest common denominator, and if they have an inch, they're going to take a mile, right? And if they have the ability to pile stuff up, it becomes an eyesore, and then it just grows and grows and grows. I get that. At a certain point, though, we have to wonder how many of those exist that you see when you're driving down the road who don't have these versus...
I'm sorry, just a second. Hold up. Justice Pond, you had a point of order?
Parliamentarian, is there any way we can have discussion before a vote on the motion to table?
Yeah, you can have discussion on a motion to table.
Okay.
But it has to be germane to the motion itself.
Oh, so we're only talking about Justice Pond's motion at this point?
Currently.
Oh, okay. Well,
So,
never mind.
Justice Koger?
Thank you, Judge. Well, this, if it is tabled, what reading will it be on next month?
It'll be on the third and final reading next month.
Thank you.
Any further discussion on the motion to postpone this ordinance until next month's meeting? Not debatable, so never mind. Forget I asked. Mrs. Brandon, will you please call the roll for this, please? This is a motion to table, postpone the ordinance until next month's quorum court meeting.
Chandra Washington. Yes. Beth Koger. Yes. Robert Dennis. Yes. Evelyn Rios Stafford. Yes. Willie Lemming. Yes. Butch Pond. Yes. Coleman Taylor. Abstain. David Wilson. Yes. Sean Simons. Yes, Kyle Lyons. Yes, Lisa Ecke. Charles Dean.
Item number 14 will be postponed until next month's quorum court meeting.
Thank you. I want to make sure like the applicant is here like on the 18th of next month, 17th.
Item number 15, council, will you read that by title only?
An ordinance authorizing a short-term financing purchase pursuant to the provisions of Act 1808 of 2001 and Amendment 78 to the Arkansas Constitution.
Justice Lyons, would you like to introduce this ordinance, sir?
Yeah, thank you, Judge. So basically, as we all discussed during the road tour that the judge talked about earlier, it takes equipment, resources, and material to do road maintenance in the county. We have 4 dump trucks that seem to be beyond its useful life, needs to be replaced, requires a lot of maintenance, and is unreliable. Without dump trucks, you don't get road maintenance. What this ordinance does is it purchases 4 dump trucks to replace those 4 that need to be replaced, and uses some financing to help the county to manage cash flow. It manages that, gives you the dump trucks to do the road maintenance, and manages the cash flow so you can still get the material to do the road maintenance, and you can deal with any expected or unexpected funding needs as you go through the years. Because I think we all want the road maintenance, need the road maintenance, require the road maintenance to continue for our citizens. I think this is something that we should move through the process and pass.
Second.
This is on the first reading.
So
It's an appropriation ordinance, I'm sorry. Never mind. I have a motion to pass the ordinance by Justice Lyons. I think I heard second by Justice Ecke. Is that correct, ma'am? Motion to pass by Justice Lyons, second by Justice Ecke. Any further discussion? Justice Lemming?
Yes, we budgeted last year in 2023 for 2 trucks, and the total was somewhere under 500,000. What happens to the money that was budgeted for those trucks? Does it get used? Does it go back away? What happens to that?
We're going to use it in our road department program for sure.
So that truck money just will roll over into the general fund?
It'll roll back into the road fund.
I mean, the general fund of the road fund.
That's correct. Yes, sir.
So I just still don't believe. Okay, another question. How many dump trucks does the county have that's usable besides the 2, 1 wrecked one and 1 salvaged one? I think there's, go ahead, I'm sorry.
The county owns a total of 12 dump trucks currently.
Currently?
12.
12. And we're going to put 4 more on, so that'll be 4, 5, that'd be, okay. So is that going to be your total? Is that what have you got drivers for every one of them?
We are fully staffed at the road department, and I would also point out, Justice Lyons, I believe, asked last meeting, we do have these dump trucks are here. This is not something that we're going to put an order in and hope we get. These dump trucks are here. The county is going to purchase these dump trucks one way or the other. This is simply, if I could explain it, a cash management issue that we run into probably even in our personal households, to where I find this a great way for us to put those dollars into pavement quicker by financing these over this term of years. I think I've expressed to you guys, and I hope our road department did a great job of expressing this to you guys, that we are behind on road maintenance for a variety of reasons that I'm very critical of, but at some point you got to quit talking about where you've been, and you got to talk about where you're going. And I want to get these trucks on the road, and I want to get the material out there. I didn't mean to cut you off, Justice Lemming, but okay. Justice Lyons?
Yeah, just clarification. We have 12 today. We're replacing 4, so we'll have 12 tomorrow. We're not adding.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. These will replace old and worn out dump trucks. Justice Simons?
Is there any value to be gained from the 12 or from the 4 that we'll be replacing? We'll be able to sell those in auction or scrap or something.
And if we do that, we will constitute this money back into this equipment. You know, this is an interesting side note, and I don't want to jump us down a rabbit hole. New dump trucks are automatic transmission. And old dump trucks, of course, a lot of them are standard. The ones we own now are standard. The new ones will be automatic. We have interested parties that want those standard transmission dump trucks. For whatever reason, the market values those higher than the automatic dump trucks currently. Justice Pond?
I just wanted to bring up, basically, I'm paying a compliment to your road department. You know, it's not any secret that we're way behind on road maintenance and road improvement, but I just want to tell you, I really appreciate that they've been getting out and patching the potholes. And, you know, I'm just a plain old country boy, and I've got some understanding about what happens with road conditions, and I just thank you for that. That we're not busting as many tires as we might have. Thank you.
Thank you, Justice Pond. I know our department appreciates it. Justice Coger?
Thank you, Judge. Do we have a number on what the financing is going to cost the county?
The ordinance has that stated in it. The interest rate is 6.62%.
Yeah, I meant like how much it's going to cost over the term of the loan. And I guess I should have asked that ahead of time, but I just wondered if we knew that.
I don't have an amortization schedule. I didn't prepare one.
Okay.
Further discussion? Public comments on item number 15? Ms. Sabrina, will you please call a roll? I have a motion to pass item number 15 by Justice Lyons, second by Justice Secchi.
Chandra Washington. Yes. Beth Koger. Yes. Robert Dennis. Yes. Evelyn Rios Stafford. Yes. Willie Lemming. No. Butch Pond. Yes. Coleman Taylor. Yes. David Wilson. Yes. Sean Simons. Yes, Kyle Lyons. Yes, Lisa Ecke. Yes. Charles Dean.
Item number 15 passes. Item number 16, Council, will you read this by title only?
An ordinance amending the county attorney's budget for 2023.
Justice Ecke, would you please introduce this ordinance?
Yes, Judge, thank you. This request is from the county judge's office that the deputy county attorney's salary be increased to the top of the first quartile due to her experience and qualifications. Our ability to recruit well-educated and experienced professionals is a direct result of the collaborative efforts of then Justice Deakins, Chairman of the Budget and Finance Committee, myself, then Chairman of the Personnel Committee, and the Personnel Committee presently serving this court now. We recognize that the most important component to the success of Washington County is our employees. We, the Quorum Court, passed unprecedented measures to provide for our future success. Today, approving this appropriation ordinance is a fruit of those effective efforts and the path forward to our continued success. And because the Quorum Court approved salary increases, I move approval of this ordinance, Judge.
I have a motion to approve item number 16 by Justice Secchi, second by Justice Dean. Any further discussion or comments? Justice Coger?
Thank you, Judge, very much. Excuse me. I just don't think this is a prudent use of our taxpayer dollars because we pay under county attorney $119,000. We pay the sheriff's legal advisor $90,000. We pay the deputy.
Hold on, Justice Coger. Justice Secchi, you have a point of order? To your mic, please.
The point of order is that that information is not germane to this. That's already been approved by the previous court, and it is budgeted. To bring it forth is not germane to this particular ordinance. It's just being combative. Thank you.
Justice Coger, can you try to accommodate that, please?
I think it's very germane because it's talking about I'm about to tell the total amount of taxpayer dollars that we pay for attorneys in Washington County.
And I think we should focus on this particular position and funding it.
I wish to appeal your ruling.
Okay. I have an appeal.
Right, there's just you would appeal that to the entire body. You would vote like you'd normally do on whether or not to uphold the judge's ruling or to overturn it.
Do I get to speak about it?
All right. You've heard the counselor. This will be a voice vote. Vote yes will sustain my ruling. A vote no will override me, and we'll let Justice Coger continue to make her point. All those in favor of sustaining the ruling? Aye. Those opposed?
No.
Okay, well, give me a little separation here, would you? I'm going to say that that's passed. My ruling's sustained. Justice Rios Stafford, what is your?
My understanding of Robert's rules is that on an appeal, we're allowed to have discussion before the vote.
Apologies, Justice Rios Stafford, you are correct. So with that, we'll open debate for the appeal. Justice Coger, do you want to open that up?
Well, I just want to say that I don't think we should be shutting down other justices when they're trying to speak and make a point, especially something as important as our taxpayer dollars. And I just think that I should be able to speak as to the amount that we're paying for county attorneys in Washington County, Arkansas.
Thank you. Justice Secchi?
Thank you, Judge. Judge, and it is my belief that we shouldn't be suing the county if you are a current elected official. If this particular person wouldn't sue the county, then we wouldn't have to pay for all of these salaries. Wait a minute.
Justice Rios Stafford, you had a point of order?
Thank you, Judge. My point of order is that these statements are not germane to the appeal or to the original.
Okay, let me make the
point
appeal
that
that no one is shutting anybody down. It's just a discussion as to why. Excuse me. Point of order.
I have to warn the crowd, we can't have outbursts like that. So if you continue to do that, we're going to ask you to spend your time somewhere else this evening.
Judge, we were accused of shutting somebody down, and that is not the truth. This is a discussion.
Ma'am, I appreciate you, but you're going to have to exit. Sorry for the interruptions, Justice Secchi.
Thank you. And the fact of the matter is we have to hire extra attorneys because of the excessive FOIA request from a particular citizen group that's spearheaded by one of the JPs on the court. And they're the ones that are spending taxpayer money by suing the county. So if you are cognizant of spending taxpayer money, then you don't want to spend taxpayer money,
Just a second.
then don't
Just a
do
second.
it.
Just a second. Justice Coger, you have a point of
And
order?
that needs for everybody to know. Thank you.
Not germane to the motion.
Okay, thank you. Justice Rios Stafford?
Thank you. My only comment is that I did feel that going through the numbers of the total amount that we're spending, for various attorneys is relevant.
Just a second, Justice. Just a second, Justice Lyons. I got your mic. I just want to get your mic queued up, sir.
We're right back where we were a little bit ago, right? The question on the table, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, is the appeal to your decision of the previous point of order. That's what we're debating, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. So I agree. The previous discussion and the discussion about the numbers and whether it should be not is not germane to the appeal. So there was a point of order that there was a discussion not germane. It was ruled as good. It was appealed. So what's the debate on on that appeal, right? So what is the appeal? Why is the judge's ruling incorrect? Is the question.
I would concur that that's correct. Justice Rios Stafford, did you still have statements to make?
That's it. I was just my point was that I thought that the judge's ruling was incorrect because I felt the original statement was germane to the discussion. That's it.
Okay. Thank you. Justice Lemming? Okay. All right, this will be back to the original ruling on the point of order. We're going to do this by a show of hands. A yes will sustain my ruling. A raise of your hand will be a yes, which will sustain my ruling. To not raise your hand will be a no vote, which will overrule my ruling. Okay? With that, all those in favor of the ruling? Those against? The ayes have it. Justice Coger, do you have any germane comments to make on the ordinance?
Yes, sir. Yes, Judge. Thank you very much. I just think that $318,000 is a lot to spend for county attorneys, and if we have this many lawsuits and by citizens and planning appeals or whatever they are, then that tells me that we should be talking about maybe looking at risk management and figuring out why we have all these lawsuits and looking at ways to fix that. And again,
Justice Coger, I can't extrapolate how your comments are any more germane than your previous comments. I'm sorry. I'm just trying to uphold the body here.
Thank you, Judge. I'm done.
Justice Taylor?
Thank you, Judge. I think I made the comment kind of tongue-in-cheek the other day that you get what you pay for when you hire an attorney, but in reality, Washington County, I think we all would agree, is one of the preeminent, or in our own opinion, is the best county in the state, right? We all live here and represent it. There are a lot of different issues going on with the residents and citizens of this county that eventually come through the county attorney's office. We could get a bargain lawyer right out of law school, go over on Maple Street, and you'll find them walking out in May. You get any one of them you want for a third the money we're paying. The work product you get, however, will not be the equivalent. And if we are going to proceed as one of, as kind of the shining star in the state of Arkansas, the issues are going to follow. And to deal with those issues, we have to have folks who are competent. And to get those folks, by definition, we're going to have to be competitive. And I can tell you in the marketplace that, everything costs more. You can ask, anybody who has hired an attorney, 2 years ago versus what it costs now, generally is going to be more expensive. I am. And so, my point would be that if we are satisfied with the work product, are we getting what we are paying for? And then if the question is, how do we lighten the load or get rid of that position, that's a different question. And so I'm in favor of this motion and think it should pass.
And if you will, I just want to take a moment, and maybe I should have opened with this, that Ms. Baker has already brought a ton of value to our county. You cannot just look at this as hiring another county attorney. In my justification letter that I presented to JSAP, and I hope maybe that you guys have seen, we have tried to become much more dynamic in the service we're providing the county and much more sophisticated. So in an effort to slim down a little bit, we've eliminated several positions throughout the county in purchasing, in our grants department, that Ms. Baker, with her talents, will allow us not to rehire. And so that will bring a savings that I've estimated to the county, if you add up those salaries, $162,000 a year. And so while this position very much has earned this, I believe, this adjustment with the advanced degrees and the skill sets that she brings to the county, it also is, in my mind, fiscally responsible because we will save money later on. Justice Dean?
Thank you, Judge. Yeah, I'd just like to say the way the county's growing right now is why I feel that we need a second attorney. I don't believe one attorney can handle everything that's going on. So that's why I would vote yeah.
Any further discussion? Any public comments on item number 16? Please state your name and where you're from, sir. You have to cue the mic, yeah.
Mac Mayfield, 980 Rocky Lane, Fayetteville. I'm really surprised that you don't want to consider financial matters in context of your budget and of the overall fiscal situation of the county. I think that's the duty of the Quorum Court as a legislative body, is to provide the budgets, and to not look at them in context is really surprising. The other thing is maybe you need a better county attorney because you lose your cases. Thank you.
Thank you. Any additional public comments? With that, Ms. Sabrina, will you please call a roll?
Chandra Washington. Yes. Beth Koger. No. Robert Dennis. Yes. Evelyn Rios Stafford. Yes. Willie Lemming. Sure. Butch Pond.
Yes, ma'am.
Coleman Taylor.
Yes.
David Wilson.
Yes.
Sean Simons. Yes. Kyle Lyons.
Yes,
Lisa Ecke. Yes. Charles Dean.
Item number 16 passes. In closing, your committee reports are in the packet. I would like to just one more time recognize two people. The first one was Ms. Myra, who served this court so very well over the last few months. And she has done a phenomenal job, and I'm sure she will continue as needed, helping Ms. Sabrina Mason come up to speed and help us. And I also want to give Ms. Sabrina a hand because I think she's come up to speed really quick. So I appreciate you, both of you. Ms. Myra, I'm really going to miss you. I'm glad you're not moved away too far. So with that, we are adjourned.